did Elon really have a choice here?
No, and if you read between the lines, I mean, he said when he tweeted, that funding was secured. But if you look at both his statement and the reports that came out, it wasn't there. And that aside, I mean, this deal didn't make a whole lot of sense to begin with. Tesla has done very well on the public markets, and the argument that this was going to be somehow less of a distraction for the company, which is what Musk initially said, didn't really make a lot of sense, because as we saw, this created kind of a circus for 2 weeks.
Now, Ivan, you have potentially multiple SEC inquiries here, issues around potential SEC fraud, market manipulation. Is this something that investors and analysts can easily forget, or is Tesla going to be plagued by uncertainty for the foreseeable future?
I think there will be some issues surrounding Musk in that tweet. In the end, I don't think it will be some type of bad punishment, but I believe he will be fined. I think he will be able to keep his CEO role, but this was just an issue of bad process and bad governance, and I think was motivated by Elon's own frustration of dealing with production issues and market issues and journalists and analysts and short sellers that motivated him to send the tweet in the first place.
Max, what are broader investors and analysts? What is the community saying? I mean, do they still, as far as you can tell, want Elon Musk in this job?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think Elon's even the critics probably would be cautious about just tossing him out, because the fact is the company needs to do so much over the next couple of years to justify its valuation, and even in the ways that Elon Musk has failed or has failed to live up to expectations, it's not easy to see how you bring in, regular car executive and you necessarily do a whole lot better. And the fact is, a lot of these investors see it as a bet on him, not as a bet on Tesla, not even as a bet on electric cars. So it's this kind of weird box that they've been in for basically the last year.
I wonder, though, Ivan, has Elon Musk fundamentally undermined the trust that investors will have in him? I mean, we uncovered multiple untruths here. Not only that funding wasn't secured, but that he didn't actually spend only 2 hours in Spain, but he was gone for 5 days from the factory floor, as he should and easily could have been. But there is this, pattern of lying, essentially.
Well, he has never met his production goals, and the market and investors forgive him for that. I think you have to look beyond some of these short-term issues and unfortunate issues and look, as Max says, to the bigger picture of what the company must do over the next few years to increase production, bring out the additional models in the pipeline to justify the valuation.
Max, talk to us about the potential penalties that could result as a result of these SEC inquiries. We've talked about potential criminal liability. We've talked about fines. New Street Research suggested that he could agree to certain controls on his communications. Would that mean he can't use Twitter?
I think a lot of Tesla investors would hope that. I mean, one of the ironies of this is if Elon wanted to squeeze the shorts, he probably would have been better off just stopping tweeting, announcing a 3-month hiatus from all tweet activity, which probably would have cheered up a lot of investors and helped him out. I think one thing that happened here is we saw basically a crack in the support for Elon Musk, both at the board level and on the investor level. So it's not as if people want to just dump him overboard or even necessarily rein him in. But I think this, combined with some other stuff, could start to lead to some significant changes. And those other things could be, disappointing results in terms of bottom line or production numbers, or something more dramatic from the SEC than just a fine.
Meantime, Ivan, Bloomberg's Model 3 tracker appears that Tesla could have actually exceeded 6,000 Model 3s a week this month. I mean, presumably that is good news if they can keep it up. But what are you actually monitoring on the factory floor? Well,
I think the target of 5,000 and even potentially 6 would be good. To go over 6 may not be good. You don't want to ever increase the production too much and then have issues with the cars. I think in the bigger picture, in what has happened here, there is a need for increased governance at Tesla, and this whole event may actually make Tesla a better company and make Elon more focused on production and less distracted by the outside issues. So this actually could be a benefit in the long term.
Well, on that note, we had the folks at UBS on the show last week, and they found some pretty significant quality issues when they looked under the hood of the Model 3. You know, gaps in the car, for example, that were quite unusual. Does that concern you?
Well, any issues in production is always concerning, but I will tell you that the quality of the car that they produce is incredible. They make one of the most high quality cars there is. They have not only created a new production process, they've invented things like a new way to weld aluminum. They actually fuse it. And a lot of their production processes they've created are unique to the company. The fit and finish of the car that I've seen and of cars that I have seen and experienced is incredible. So I would be surprised if there were some production issues. But sometimes there is, and when you're rolling out a new model and you have to keep improving it. I mean, that's like the Six Sigma process, is to move to the 100% quality control level by eliminating all the variables. So there's always an ongoing improvement process. But I would be surprised if there were really any significant issues.
Max, given the amount of control that Elon Musk already has at Tesla, how realistic is it to think there could be a new governance structure?
Well, I think he would have to decide that it was the way forward, or there would have to be, like I said, some additional sort of red flag that would cause his friends, really his board members are his friends, to try to rein him in. That said, there's precedent for this, and I think if Elon Musk were able to find a way where he were able to have less involvement, I think that's something that he would like. I mean, he said as much, and I think it's in some sense, it's a failing of his that he hasn't been able to figure that out. That said, right. I'm not sure how they would make that work, and given the way that the board is structured, it's hard to see them doing it, without his consent.